It is high time for France to lift its knee off our neck and put an end to this unjust oppression. Centuries of misery, human trafficking, colonization, and neocolonization have caused immeasurable suffering. It's time to put an end to this cycle of oppression. It's high time for France to leave us alone. It's time for France to take a cue from its European neighbors and learn a valuable lesson in independence.
What happens when democracy wins in African nations often mocked by the West for political instability? The results came in, and Bassirou Diomaye Faye became the new leader of Senegal. The first thing he did was teach the West a lesson. But overall, was there any political distress? The West had predicted that these elections wouldn't end well for Senegal. But guess what? These were more peaceful elections than those in the West. But is Faye a good fit for Africa? And did he win without any external pressure? Let's find out. The results of the Senegalese presidential election have surfaced, and Bassirou Diomaye Faye is the new leader of Senegal. But before his triumph, Senegal celebrated the victory of democracy. But how did Bassirou Diomaye Faye's victory in the Senegalese presidential election signal a triumph for democracy? One of the crucial indicators of democratic maturity was the concession of defeat by Faye's main rival. Faye's opponent called him to concede a defeat, demonstrating a commitment to respecting the will of the people and the democratic process. This concession reflects a fundamental aspect of democracy where losers accept election outcomes gracefully, thereby ensuring peaceful transitions of power. In his first public appearance after the election, Faye thanked President Macky Sall and other candidates for recognizing his victory well before official results were announced. This acknowledgement of Senegal's democratic tradition highlights the country's commitment to fair and transparent electoral processes. It also highlights the importance of mutual respect among political rivals in upholding democratic norms. Faye's victory with approximately 54% of the vote indicates a significant mandate from the electorate. In a democracy, the legitimacy of the government stems from the consent of the governed. By garnering a majority of votes, Faye demonstrated that he had earned the trust and support of a substantial portion of the Senegalese population, further solidifying the democratic foundation of the nation. Also, after the victory, everything was very peaceful. This peaceful transfer of authority is a hallmark of stable democracies and contrasts starkly with regions plagued by political turmoil and conflict. Senegal's ability to navigate the electoral process peacefully enhances its reputation as a beacon of stability and democracy in the West African region. These elections also show that the West was wrong when it said democracy couldn't win in African nations. So, the new leader's first move was to give the West a clear and bold statement. He also talked about how France controlled the African nations, and here is what he has to say.
Germany is the leading economic power in Europe, significantly surpassing France, which is ranked as the third or fourth largest economic power globally. Germany does not exploit any country, any colony. I can mention Italy, I can mention Spain, who had colonies before, but who do not exploit anyone, who do not interfere, who do not impose leaders in their former colony. On what grounds does France believe it can continue to impose leaders on us and make choices on our behalf? This must come to an end. And the emerging Africa, the African youth, the African elites, and the African diaspora all stand united in saying no, it cannot continue any longer. France's hypocrisy is evident and pervasive in daily life. Let's examine the cases of Mali and Chad as prime examples of this hypocrisy. In Chad, where the constitutional process has been interrupted, France applauded and its president visited to officially consecrate the new king's coronation ceremony. In Mali, where it is not the constitutional process that has been interrupted, but the transition process, France has condemned and even packed up its things to say that it is leaving Mali. That's hypocrisy. It's the double standard. It is the double language that France employs in its dealings with Africa.
But why is the opponent's remarks being highlighted? What role did the concession of defeat by Faye's main rival play in affirming Senegal's commitment to democratic principles? The concession of defeat by Faye's main rival played a significant role in affirming Senegal's commitment to democratic principles in several ways. Conceding defeat by Faye's main rival demonstrates a fundamental respect for the electoral process. In a democracy, elections serve as a mechanism for peacefully transferring power based on the people's will. By accepting the election results and conceding defeat, Faye's opponent upheld the integrity of the electoral process and acknowledged the authority vested in the elected leader. Conceding defeat contributes to political stability by avoiding contentious post-election disputes and potential unrest. In many democracies, refusing to accept election results can lead to prolonged political crises, undermining governance and social cohesion. However, by conceding defeat, Faye's main rival helped to ensure a smooth transition of power, thereby fostering stability and continuity in Senegal's political landscape. Senegal's commitment to democratic principles is reinforced when political rivals gracefully accept election outcomes. Faye's main rival's concession of defeat highlights the country's adherence to democratic norms, such as peaceful competition, respect for the rule of law, and the acceptance of electoral verdicts. This validation of democratic principles strengthens the legitimacy of the electoral process and enhances public trust in democratic institutions. By conceding defeat, Faye's main rival contributed to preserving national unity and cohesion. Contentious election disputes can exacerbate societal divisions along political, ethnic, or regional lines. However, by accepting the election results and pledging to work with the incoming administration, Faye's opponent helped to foster a sense of common purpose and collective identity among Senegalese citizens. But what will the future of Senegal be like now? What specific promises did President-elect Faye make regarding his governance style? Faye pledged to govern humbly, signaling a departure from past leadership styles characterized by arrogance or authoritarianism. This promise indicates Faye's recognition of the importance of humility in fostering trust and cooperation between the government and the governed. By committing to lead humbly, Faye aims to create a more inclusive and empathetic political culture in Senegal. Another key promise made by President-elect Faye was to govern with transparency. Transparency entails openness, honesty, and accountability in government affairs. By pledging to prioritize transparency, Faye aims to build public trust in government institutions and enhance the credibility of the political process. This commitment suggests a willingness to openly engage with the public and clearly explain government actions and decisions. Faye's promise to govern with humility and transparency also implies a commitment to being accessible to the Senegalese people. Accessibility involves actively listening to citizens' concerns, engaging with grassroots communities, and responding to their needs. By emphasizing accessibility, Faye signals his intention to be a responsive and accountable leader who remains connected to the realities and aspirations of ordinary citizens. Faye's promise to govern with humility and transparency also signifies a break with past political practices. This pledge recognizes the need for reform and renewal in Senegal's governance structures and leadership ethos. By embracing change and signaling a departure from the status quo, Faye positions himself as a transformative figure committed to ushering in a new era of democratic governance in Senegal. But what do people think of Faye's promises?
Personally, we expect absolutely nothing from France. We desire her to cease meddling in our matters so that the people of Senegal can exercise their freedom of choice rather than being influenced by France's selection of a candidate using the tactics we are aware of.
Bassirou Diomaye. Faye's pledges of humility and transparency resonate deeply with the aspirations of the Senegalese people for several reasons. The Senegalese people aspire to be governed by leaders who embody ethical values such as humility and transparency. In a political landscape often marred by corruption and abuse of power, Faye's commitment to humility signifies a departure from the arrogance and elitism of some past leaders. By promising to lead with humility, Faye aligns himself with the desire for ethical leadership that prioritizes the common good over personal gain. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. Transparency in governance is a core demand of the Senegalese people. Citizens want leaders who are accountable for their actions and who operate openly and transparently. Faye's pledge to govern with transparency resonates with this demand by signaling his commitment to honesty, openness, and accountability in government affairs. This promise reassures the Senegalese people that Faye will work to prevent corruption and ensure that public resources are used responsibly for all benefit. Faye's emphasis on humility suggests a commitment to inclusive leadership that values the voices and perspectives of all Senegalese citizens. In a country with diverse ethnic, religious, and cultural communities, inclusive governance is essential for promoting social cohesion and national unity. Faye's promise to govern with humility resonates with the aspiration for empathetic, responsive, and inclusive leadership, bridging divides and fostering solidarity among all segments of society. The Senegalese people have demonstrated a strong desire for change, particularly among the younger generation, who are eager to see a break from the political status quo. Faye's pledges of humility and transparency symbolize a commitment to reform and renewal in Senegal's governance structures. By promising to govern with humility and transparency, Faye appeals to the aspirations of those who seek a more accountable, responsive, and forward-thinking government. Now let's discuss the factors that made Faye win. One of them is Ousmane Sonko's help. So, how did Bassirou Diomaye Faye's alliance with Ousmane Sonko contribute to his electoral success? Ousmane Sonko, a firebrand opposition leader, commands a sizable following, particularly among disaffected youth and those disillusioned with the political establishment. By allying with Sonko, Faye was able to tap into this support base, significantly broadening his appeal beyond his political affiliations. This alliance allowed Faye to access voters who may have hesitated to support him individually, but were swayed by Sonko's endorsement. Sonko's political network and grassroots mobilization capabilities proved invaluable in reaching voters across Senegal's diverse regions. As a former tax inspector and prominent opposition figure, Sonko established networks and connections deep into various segments of Senegalese society. Faye could leverage Sonko's organizational infrastructure and campaign machinery through this alliance to amplify his message and mobilize supporters effectively. Let's discuss the key issues Faye and Sonko campaigned on, particularly youth empowerment and economic policies. Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko campaigned on key issues, particularly youth empowerment and economic policies. These issues resonate strongly with voters, especially given Senegal's youthful population and economic challenges. Both Faye and Sonko recognized the importance of addressing the needs and aspirations of Senegal's young population. They campaigned on platforms that promised to prioritize youth empowerment through initiatives such as skills training, entrepreneurship support, and job creation programs. Recognizing the potential of youth as agents of change, Faye and Sonko pledged to provide opportunities for young people to thrive and contribute positively to the country's development. Faye and Sonko articulated comprehensive economic policies to stimulate growth, reduce poverty, and foster economic inclusion. Central to their economic agenda was promoting sustainable development, diversifying the economy, and attracting investment in key sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. They pledged to implement policies to create a conducive environment for businesses to thrive, generating employment opportunities and enhancing livelihoods. Both candidates campaigned on platforms that promised to tackle corruption and promote accountability in government. They emphasized the need to root out corruption, strengthen institutions, and ensure transparency in governance processes. Faye and Sonko vowed to implement measures to prevent graft, prosecute corrupt officials, and safeguard public resources for the benefit of all citizens. Faye and Sonko advocated for social justice and equity as fundamental policy principles. They pledged to address social inequalities, improve access to education, healthcare, and basic services, and promote inclusive development that leaves no one behind. Recognizing the importance of equitable resource distribution, Faye and Sonko promised to prioritize the needs of marginalized communities and vulnerable groups. Faye and Sonko highlighted the importance of environmental sustainability and conservation in their campaigns. They pledged to implement policies protecting Senegal's natural resources, mitigating climate change impacts, and promoting sustainable development practices. Recognizing the interconnectedness of environmental health and economic prosperity, Faye and Sonko promise to pursue policies that balance economic growth with environmental stewardship. Another important question is, what are the primary challenges that President-elect Faye will face upon assuming office? President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Faye will encounter several primary challenges upon assuming office, each posing significant hurdles to his administration's agenda and the nation's progress. Like many countries, Senegal has faced economic challenges exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Faye must implement measures to stimulate economic recovery, address unemployment, and promote sustainable growth. This task is compounded by Senegal's dependence on sectors vulnerable to external shocks, such as tourism and agriculture. Tackling corruption and improving governance are perennial challenges in Senegal. To restore public trust in government, Faye must strengthen anti-corruption institutions, enhance transparency, and promote accountability. Addressing corruption is essential for fostering investor confidence, ensuring equitable resource allocation, and promoting inclusive development. Senegal has experienced periodic waves of social unrest and protests, driven by grievances related to economic inequality, social injustice, and political repression. Faye must navigate these tensions carefully, addressing underlying grievances while upholding democratic principles and respecting human rights. Managing political stability is crucial for fostering investor confidence and sustaining economic growth. Senegal faces security challenges from both domestic and regional threats, including terrorism, organized crime, and border disputes. To address these threats effectively, Faye must strengthen security forces, enhance intelligence capabilities, and collaborate with regional partners. Maintaining stability is essential for safeguarding Senegal's development gains and preserving its reputation as a regional leader. Then comes climate change, which poses significant challenges to Senegal's agricultural sector, coastal communities, and natural resources. Faye must prioritize environmental sustainability, implementing adaptation and mitigation measures to address the impacts of climate change and promote sustainable development practices. Protecting the environment is essential for preserving Senegal's ecological diversity, ensuring food security, and safeguarding livelihoods. Despite progress in expanding access to social services and infrastructure, Senegal still faces deficits in healthcare, education, and transportation. Faye will need to invest in improving basic services, upgrading infrastructure, and strengthening social safety nets to enhance quality of life and promote human development. Addressing these challenges is crucial for reducing poverty, inequality, and social exclusion. But do these elections matter? What is the significance of Senegal's elections becoming a global debate for Africa? This can be guessed from Senegal's emerging oil and gas industry. Developing Senegal's oil and gas reserves can significantly boost economic growth and generate substantial revenue for the government. Revenues from oil and gas production can be used to fund infrastructure projects, social programs, and economic diversification initiatives, thereby driving development and reducing poverty. The oil and gas sector offers job creation and skills development opportunities across various sectors of the economy. From engineering and technical roles to support services such as logistics and administration, the industry can create employment opportunities for Senegalese citizens, particularly youth. Developing oil and gas infrastructure, such as pipelines, terminals, and refineries, can spur broader infrastructure development in Senegal. Investments in infrastructure not only support the oil and gas industry, but also benefit other sectors of the economy, improving connectivity and facilitating trade and commerce. Senegal's oil and gas sector has attracted significant foreign investment, bringing expertise, technology, and best practices from international oil companies. This influx of investment and technology can catalyze innovation, enhance technical capabilities, and stimulate growth in related industries. We all know where there is oil, there is West to exploit. Now, it is also very common here to see the West getting jealous of Senegal. When they fail to exploit Senegal, they come forward to criticize it. They say proper management of oil and gas resources is essential to avoid the resource curse phenomenon, where resource-rich countries experience economic distortions, corruption, and political instability. The new government must establish robust regulatory frameworks, transparent revenue management systems, and effective governance mechanisms to ensure that oil and gas revenues benefit all citizens and promote sustainable development. But Senegal is already taking care of this. The oil and gas industry can also have significant environmental and social impacts, including habitat destruction, pollution, and community displacement. The government must prioritize environmental protection, adopt best practices for resource extraction, and mitigate adverse social effects through community engagement, compensation, and livelihood restoration programs. The Western experts also say Senegal's reliance on oil and gas revenues exposes the economy to revenue volatility and fiscal risks associated with fluctuating commodity prices. The government must diversify the economy, build resilience against external shocks, and adopt prudent fiscal management practices to avoid over-reliance on oil and gas revenues and mitigate the effects of price volatility. According to the West, maximizing local content and promoting local participation in the oil and gas sector is essential for ensuring that the benefits of resource extraction are shared equitably among Senegalese citizens. The government must prioritize local content development, skills training, and capacity building initiatives to enhance the participation of local businesses and workers in the industry. Now, the West thinks Senegal does not know anything. They had planned for everything before the West could say it. Returning to the elections, what implications does Senegal's peaceful transition of power have for the stability of the West African region? Senegal's peaceful transition of power showcases the country's democratic maturity and commitment to democratic principles. In a region often marred by political instability, coups, and contested elections, Senegal stands out as a beacon of stability and democratic governance. By demonstrating that democratic transitions can occur peacefully, Senegal sets a positive example for other countries in the region to emulate. A peaceful transition of power in Senegal contributes to regional stability and security by preventing political instability and conflict. Political turmoil and uncertainty in one country can have spillover effects, destabilizing neighboring countries and undermining regional peace and security. Senegal's peaceful transition helps maintain stability in the broader West African region, reducing the risk of conflicts and security threats. Senegal's peaceful transition reinforces the importance of good governance and respect for the rule of law in ensuring political stability and socio-economic development. By upholding democratic norms, respecting electoral outcomes, and adhering to constitutional processes, Senegal sets a positive example for other countries grappling with governance challenges. This can encourage reforms and promote accountability among regional governments, contributing to improved governance and stability. Senegal's commitment to peaceful power transitions fosters trust and confidence among regional neighbors, facilitating enhanced cooperation and collaboration on shared challenges. Stable and democratic governments are more likely to engage constructively in regional initiatives, such as economic integration, trade agreements, and joint security efforts. Senegal's stability strengthens regional partnerships and promotes collective action to address common threats and opportunities. Political stability and democratic governance are essential for attracting foreign investment and promoting economic development. Senegal's peaceful transition of power enhances investor confidence by signaling political stability and continuity. This in turn can stimulate economic growth, create jobs, and improve living standards for citizens in Senegal and neighboring countries that benefit from regional economic integration and trade. Let's end the video with a simple question. Is pave really good for Africa? If yes, how so?
We begin by targeting individuals, adorning them with the Legion of Honor or a similar knightly rank, enlisting them in Masonic lodges, and informing them to prepare themselves as they will be next in line. Even the hypothesis that Macky Sall may not succeed, we know who is being prepared by France. This must come to an end. It will not occur in this manner any longer.
President-elect Bassirou Diomaye Faye's commitment to regional cooperation and stability aligns with broader trends in African politics in several key ways, which makes him a good fit. Faye's commitment to regional cooperation reflects the broader trend of Pan-Africanism and efforts towards continental integration. African leaders increasingly recognize the importance of solidarity and collaboration in addressing common challenges and harnessing collective opportunities. By prioritizing regional cooperation, Faye aligns with the vision of a united and integrated Africa, espoused by Pan-Africanist leaders and regional organizations such as the African Union AU. Then comes regional cooperation, essential for promoting peace and security in Africa, given the transnational nature of security threats, such as terrorism, organized crime, and conflict. Faye's commitment to regional stability resonates with efforts to strengthen regional security architectures, enhance cooperation among regional blocs, and support peacekeeping missions led by regional organizations, such as the Economic Community of West African States (ECOWAS) and the African Union. By prioritizing peace and security, Faye contributes to broader efforts to mitigate conflict and instability across the continent. Regional cooperation is instrumental in fostering trade and economic integration, which is essential for economic growth and development in Africa. Faye's commitment to regional cooperation aligns with efforts to enhance intra-African trade, reduce trade barriers, and promote regional economic blocs such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA. By facilitating closer economic ties with neighboring countries and promoting regional trade agreements, Faye contributes to efforts to unlock Africa's economic potential and create opportunities for shared prosperity. Regional cooperation allows African countries to engage diplomatically, exert soft power, and amplify their influence on the global stage. Faye's commitment to regional cooperation aligns with broader efforts to strengthen Africa's voice in international affairs, advocate for African interests, and pursue common positions on global issues such as climate change, sustainable development, and peace building. By fostering diplomatic ties and partnerships within the region, Faye enhances Senegal's role as a regional leader and contributes to Africa's collective strength in global affairs. Do you think he is a good fit for Senegal? What do you have to say about the democracy flourishing in Africa? Let us know in the comments section. What future do you see Africa having in a few years? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.